welcome everyone to Flying Soul Podcast. And today we have Mona of Monzlapur, the designer, not only with her incredible designs that she'll talk about in a second, but she's also one of the founding designers of Flying Solo. So this is the person that's literally built the first store with her hands, like alongside with nine other super cool designers. And we'll talk today about obviously Monzlapur and how her brand developed within the past 10 years and how the beginning of Flying Solo and why we even do what we do and how Flying Solo came about. Mona, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to do this podcast with you, Liz.
Well, obviously we know each other for a very long time and way even before Flying Solo we kind of all connect. So
Yeah.
let's start from the very beginning. So Monzlapur, how did you come up with the idea of your brand? How did you start?
Well, I feel like Monzlapur was born when I was totally in a whole other like career path altogether. So while I was like studying in school for biochemistry is when I was super inspired by what people were wearing. I was living in London at the time. And then there's just a calling to change direction and pursue this. And so it's been like a risk, like an exciting roller coaster, and it brought me to New York, which is ultimately where I wanted to end up. And then it was just testing things. Like I can't say that I knew what it was in the beginning. I just knew I had like all this like plethora of ideas, and I feel like I grew a lot, with Flying Solo because Flying Solo was one of the first like umbrellas that like grounded me as a designer, having a space to create product and talk to people and see how they respond to the product, and then from there establish my persona as a brand. So it's been 10 years since I started Monzlapur, and it's like now 9.5 years since Flying Solo. So you guys have been very much part of my journey.
Well, I very vividly remember how we met. It was like little pop-up before Flying Solo even became Flying Solo. And I all remember about your designs where they were super cool. And then you were telling stories how you developed different fabrics. And I remember that fabric that you said that is different cells that were incorporated. Or how was
Yes,
it
yes, yes.
that you your
So
background?
the first print I created was a print of a zebra fish embryo. And it was one of the images. So during, like, when I was studying biochemistry and we were studying, like, all these different animals that were used in labs for testing different products, one of the animals that they were testing were zebrafish and how they respond to things and how their genomes are. And so I just remember being in that class and just being so visually stimulated by like just nature in a microscopic level and how their nature and art can meet. And so that was like my first like crossover from like biochemistry to fashion, is to create that print. And it's very beautiful, actually. I still love it. And I'm thinking it should make a comeback, maybe next year for the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, it would be super cool. And I remember that you created a lot of really cool patterns. The ones that I think, came back like in the, later dresses as well. The ones that some details that were signature Manslapur details, like keep coming back in different collection, which I think is incredible. And I own quite a few of your pieces, as you remember.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I
So
mean,
how? Yeah.
animal patterns. There's this like definitely like connection with nature, but also like how it can transform and be other concepts through prints. And right now, like for the past 3 years, I've been in love with the snake print and python print actually. and I've been developing it in different colors, but like it just kind of evolved of like, what does this mean? Like, why am I so attracted to this, and why am I putting it in all of these clothes? It was like a snake takeover this year, like my rack everywhere. And it really is just it's a very one, it's a very like calm, very sensual animal, and also always like getting rid of its skin and like rebirthing. So that's kind of like the journey I feel like I was going through, and I feel like a lot of us go through, especially in New York. And it's constantly like you need to shed your skin, you need to shed, let go, and rebirth, and step into this like newness and like, let's go, we're doing it again, we're doing something new. And yeah, it's definitely been a powerful part of this year, and it just so happened to be the year of the snake. So yeah, it's powerful. Prints and art and that coming together in the expression of fashion.
Yeah, it is incredible. Yeah, and I love the idea of snake that is constantly reinventing itself in a way, so shedding the old skin and
Hmm.
creating the new one. So take me back to that time. So you were based of London. You were doing biochemistry. You did your very first. You start developing your very first collection. What was next? Did you do production? What was your first collection? How
Yeah,
did
yeah,
it
absolutely. I can take you.
work?
So basically, what I decided to do was first start off by creating like dresses. You know, the dresses I felt like essentially what Monzlapur was is occasion wear, something that you can wear for a social happening. So it started off as dresses because I had just moved to New York, and like, I used to wear a lot of dresses at the time. And then it evolved into a more fuller collection of shirts and pants. And that's because the New York experience is like, it's more urban. So you want to wear pants a lot, you're wearing shirts a lot. And so that's I started doing my first productions once I landed a kind of permanent space to sell my clothes. And one of the first permanent spaces was at Flying Solo because we decided to make that happen for us. It wasn't existing out there. It was like literally impossible, and still is, to rent your own like storefront in New York City, and carry that, all that weight as a one solo designer. And so having that permanent space was great because I was like, okay, now I can start doing productions. And I was doing smaller productions, like I would do like 10 pieces per style, per color, and see how clients responded to it. And so having that space to connect with the consumer and see how like the fit looks on a person, how they respond to it, what are they, in love with more, and what can I make more of. And so that was a good um, learning space, I think, for a new brand, is to have that like customer connection from the beginning.
Yeah, I love what you were saying. I think all of us back in the day were just experimenting with customers and like seeing what they like, what they don't like, seeing their reaction for the first time to our actual designs, because it's like otherwise we just sell online and we don't get to see those excitement reactions of the actual people wearing things. Then we finally start inviting them. And we had it, remember, we had it even before Flying Solo was the Flying Solo. It was a tiny pop up that we all did. That's how we
Yes,
pretty much
yes,
met. I
exactly.
still don't even understand how we all were fitting in that space. I think it was so tiny. Each of us
Oh
have to
my
kind of
God.
go like sideways in order to pass each other.
There was like only one like person that could like work at the store or be at the store in addition to a customer in a given time because there was just like no room to stand. But I love that we just somehow fit like 8 brands or something in that tiny space, and it looked really cute. I still like miss that space.
I know. I did stop by this space at some point later, and I was like, I cannot believe that we were actually fitting in here. It's tiny. It's like so tiny, but we had so much fun at the beginning. I love how
Yeah.
we absolutely didn't know what we were doing, and you were one of the like first people who taught us how to even talk to the customers because you had somewhat of an experience and
Yes.
how to grab the merchandise. Remember that?
Oh my God. Yeah, I love it. We were all like, what can you do? What is your superpower? Bring it in. Like everybody comes
Yeah,
together.
remember the
And I was,
superpower.
yeah, and I was like, I worked in retail. I worked in Bloomingdale's and Ted Baker. We actually have to smile, and greet people when they walk in and stop being like awkward designers. And then like merchandising, like colors and like putting, outfits together in a rack, finger spacing. I was getting so like like annoyed if someone didn't finger space. I'm like, everything has to be finger spaced. It was very cute. It was a
I
cute.
know, and I love that all of us had our special talent. Somehow it was a super talented group of designers. So you did a lot of with the customer and merchandising. Daniel did quite a bit of interior merchandising. Katie started doing like working on the website and digital. There were people that were doing social media and things like that. I don't know. Somehow we all had our special talents and moved. But do you remember when we finally? So after that, we finally moved to Mulberry Street, which became actual Flying Solo in much bigger group of 30 designers. But do you remember the day when we get into the space? It was all empty, and we're like, we're going to figure it out how to open the store. This is just going to be amazing. And the
Yeah.
next morning, we had to figure out how to even put the racks in because we had absolutely no idea where even to purchase it. So remember that you and Daniel went to the Home Depot to figure it out.
Yeah. Oh my God,
Yeah.
thank God for Daniel because I was like, I have no idea how to fill this empty large space. We're like, we obviously need racks to hang the clothes, okay? So then we're like, where do we go? We're like, okay, Home Depot. This is like, it's not just, racks that are gonna be like rolled in, like it's a permanent space. So we actually need to drill racks onto the wall. Yeah, we went together. Honestly, I was just like, doing everything he was telling me to do. He's like, grab this, grab that. I was like, I have no idea what we're doing. Let's do it. But it was so nice to see it come together. Even just the colors, like how like copper racks, were very much like part of Flying Solo's like charisma in the beginning. Like copper racks, you see them and you're like Flying Solo you know um and then just from painting the floors, like it was like literally raw space, varnishing them, everything, the windows, how to do just visual displays of the mannequins, and all this. So it was definitely quite a journey.
Yeah, I remember. I remember that as well. I remember how you and Daniel came from Home Depot very excited about the Copper X, and my reaction was, "Are they going to even like stand?" And Daniel ensured. I love Daniel's confidence always. Is like, "No, it's going to work, Elizabeth.
Oh,
Everything is going to
totally.
be fine. Here's the sketch." And remember that all of us that summer learned how to cut the pipes. Do you remember the pipe cutter?
Yes,
Like the
yes.
that all of us just like cutting it. So the original group of designers, we all knew how, we still know how to cut copper
Oh my
pipe
God.
because we had to assemble our own racks. But a lot of people told me later that they thought that the space was designed by someone that intentionally did all the copper and very raw spaces, and this was a very cool design. And people was like, "Who was your interior designer for that?"
Oh my God,
Like,
really?
well, little did you know, it just came out
Amazing.
of creativity of
Never heard
all of
that.
us. Yeah, people
Oh
thought
my
that
God,
it
I
was
love
very
it.
intentional of
We were like getting
everything.
art from the street or just finding like up and coming, artists and putting their art up on the wall. It was very cool. I really loved it. Very, very communal. And also because we were the designers and we were working the space too. This was
Yeah.
pre sales support. in early stages of growth. So definitely, like we all had shifts, we'd work there a couple of times a week and be like, hey, listen, I know this artist who has a studio up in Queens. We need to go and get some art for the
Oh, I
wall.
remember that. Me and you went to the artist studio in Queens and brought the gigantic copper fish from there, right? They
Oh
brought
my
it
God,
and we
yes.
scouted it. That was
Absolutely. It was
amazing.
so cool. It was very peculiar, very nice stuff. And I think there was a clock too. I'm not sure if you had that or you got that.
That was a clock. I remember that. But what was cool about it is it wasn't just a place with random things. We all feels like had a really good aesthetic taste, really good aesthetics.
Exactly.
So the space ended up looking great.
Yes, and absolutely. It looked cool. It looked unique. That's what's special. Like you walked in there and you felt that like all of these designs were being expressed through like the merchandise, right? Like the jewelry, the clothing, the shoes, the handbags, and then there was like this added character that was unique because we were sourcing other elements to make the space, look more individual to us and still embracing that kind of like rawness of the space, which is very New York in a way. It's like so absolutely that was very cool.
Yeah. So back to Monzlapur. So we opened the store, and obviously all of our merchandise was on the racks and shelves and tables of flying solo. Do you remember your very first? Who was your very first client? Your very first purchase? How it's all started from there?
Wow. I'm trying to remember. I made a lot of clients that then ended up being like friends later, which was very cool. But I think like one of the I had a big tulle skirt at the time. This was one of my more
I remember
experimental
that.
pieces. Do you remember that?
Of course, I
Yeah.
remember this like greenish, like dark green skirt, polka
Yes.
dot, like very big one. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like me bringing my like Middle Eastern princess side. It was like here's New York stuff, and then here's a big tulle skirt. I don't know who's gonna wear it where, but we're making it and we're putting it in this rack, and just seeing how people reacted to it. And I met some really cool customers that were attracted to the skirt and had even wanted it in colors. So that was really nice actually to see your designs being perceived and appreciated, you know. And I also feel like that was kind of our like mini home in Soho, like the store, because we spent
Yeah.
time there all the time. And so we'd be out hanging out in this like outside on the curb, like getting some sun, and then just meeting people from the neighborhood and then telling them about the product and they'd come in and then they'd shop and like leave with a Monzlapur piece or a Salamina piece. Very cool experimental period. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're definitely right about that. It was a lot of experimental stuff. And remember how we then a few stylists will start stopping by our store and they're like, can we borrow it? We're like, well, we don't really do it, but I guess if you're doing a photo shoot here and then it's kind of start transforming into also a press showroom. So we start doing it in the back of the store. Do you remember your very
Uh-huh.
first publications or very first like magazines that we did?
Oh my God. So, you know what? There's a very key element here of connection with a stylist. So, back to that tulle skirt that I had, there was a stylist, Jennifer. Do you remember Jennifer?
I remember Jennifer, yeah.
Yeah, so she loved our pieces, she loved our store, and she was very enthusiastic about that skirt. And she was like, I'm gonna pull it. Can I pull it for a shoot? And I was like, okay, it's my baby. So she pulled it, and I remember when she came back to the store, I was telling her like, show me pictures. I want to see what you did. And she was like, like kind of apprehensive, like I don't know what your reaction's gonna be, and so she showed me the photo, and that was actually the first time that I saw like a Monzlapur piece styled on a man on a
Hmm.
male model. So she had done this really cool editorial of my tulle skirt, being styled on a male model, very editorial. And that really definitely like there was like a click in my mind. There was a complete shift. And I was like, oh my God, wow. Like I never would have imagined the skirt to be styled this way or even just my pieces to be worn by men. And that actually was the kind of the stimulus that caused Monzlapur to eventually become gender fluid. That moment. I don't know if she knows it, but like, that literally was the switch when I was like, let me make my pieces bigger, you know, and see like the reaction. Like maybe, different genders, maybe the clothing can become gender fluid. Um, and yeah, that was pivotal because now Monzlapur is 1,000% gender fluid brand. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I remember Jennifer's multiple photo shoot that she did with us. She was one of the first stylists that pulling from us. And then I remember when Matt Lacari did a gigantic photo shoot in the back of our store. For us, it was the biggest photo shoot with our clothes by then. And we did the whole day. We did indoors, outdoors. It was so amazing. I think it was end up being in Lady Gun after that. And I also remember after I think a few months, a stylist stopped by. She pulled a few pieces, and then a month later, she like basically she said editorial is out, so guys check it out if you like, your pieces made it there. So I went to Koreatown to pick up Vogue Career, and I think Sylvia's pieces were there, someone else's.
Oh
And I
my
remember I
God,
was just
yes.
bringing that magazine like to the store to show everybody. And I remember how people were just screaming. I think you were
Oh my
screaming for half an
God.
hour. Yeah,
Oh,
it's like I couldn't believe that like 2 months ago we started flying solo, and 2 months later our pieces are already in like actual Korean Vogue on the pages. I was like, you can feel it. It's like I
wow.
cannot
Prince.
believe that is
Prince.
happening.
That's
Yeah,
so amazing. That's
yeah, that was really cool. I think it was like so many cool firsts like that year because all of us were just, young brands, like sort of baby brands, like from
totally.
what we know now. We thought that we already know everything, but we didn't. And all of those like cool firsts happened for us in that store in Mulberry. Yeah.
Oh my God, 100%, 100%. I mean, I started Mons Lapour like straight after university, so it was literally like total experimentation. No idea what I'm doing, just using my gut instinct. Like, how was it for you? Did you also like start it like earlier on, Salamina?
Yeah, I mean, the brand was Salamina brand started only a year before flying solo, and it was
Same.
also very much baby brand. Like I didn't know much. I mean, it was selling here and there. Like I mean, I started getting a little bit of customers, but that's about it. And I kind of knew that designs were cool because people are willing to pay for them. But what do you do with it as a business? It was a completely different story.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah, and remember how we decided to do our very first fashion show in
Oh
February?
yeah.
So we were
Oh my
crazy
God.
enough to actually say that we're going to do New York Fashion Week show. None of us, other than Daniel, really knew what we got ourselves getting ourselves
Oh
into.
my God. How can I forget?
What do you remember about that show?
Well, it was in a parking lot, which was super cool. Indoor parking lot. It was cold. I remember it being February. Um, I remember like the back area where we had to like change the models. It was just like we were just had like rack after rack after rack, and like the lighting was so dim, and you were just like trying to like fish out like, is it this shoe that's gonna go with this? And it was like, all the models like they're standing like waiting to be dressed, and like we're dressing them, each designer is dressing their own models, with some assistance, steaming everything. I remember like steaming to the last minute. Like the model is literally like supposed to go out and I'm steaming, like the piece like on the side of her. And you were like, Mona, she has to go outside. I'm like, I can't have wrinkles on my silk. You know, it was so cool. And I think we had some really cool, like, feminist signs. Remember, like, the models were carrying
Yes,
all
I
these
remember
signage?
that. Yeah, so I think the whole idea came about. So it was 2 nights before the show, and we were prepping for the show like crazy in the store late at night. And
Yeah.
someone, I forgot who came up with that idea. So that was around the time when Trump just get into the office and was trying first
Yes.
time around.
First
And
term.
he was trying to ban all immigrants from coming in to the
Yes.
country. So people were protesting in airports, and we kind of thought that that big, garage thing will transform into the airport. Like, I mean,
Oh
with
my
small.
God. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
we put like a thing, like the yellow
Yes.
strips in the
Like a
middle, so it was,
runway.
yeah, like a plain runway. We did the
Exactly.
whole schedule of our designers, like airport, landing thing
Yes.
that me and Daniel were doing till the morning of the show, I think, and then put the people with the like lights, like they navigating where the planes are
Exactly.
supposed
Exactly.
to land. And
Like the
someone is like,
conducting.
let's do the signs. And we did very cool signs, like we stand in heels together, like, very
Yeah.
fashion, but at the same time we did somewhat a political statement. And
Oh my God.
remember the WWD came over to our show. Somehow we can, they came, and because we were running so late on the show, because we were obvious. Remember, it was the day of the snow. The truck
Sure.
got
Yes.
stuck. We had to carry everything out. We decided to take our bricks with us. Remember that we decided to take our bricks with us.
Yes. The best idea in the world.
Best city in the world. We were carrying gigantic bricks with us. And the guy from WWD, he's like, I'm sorry, guys, I'm leaving. Like, I have another show to catch. We're like, please, 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 it's our first show. Please stay. We're about to go to the run. And as soon as he saw the signs, like that we are actually, our models are going out with the signs, like we're peacefully
Protest.
protesting.
Hmm.
He's like, if that is going into the magazine, I'm staying. I was like, oh my fucking
Oh
God,
my
seriously.
God. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. I remember this. That's
Yeah.
so amazing. I
And I
love
remember next morning we woke up and it was in WWD. I was like, I still can't believe it, like how much luck in a way we had at the beginning. I guess it was just so much excitement around us that people were
Yes.
just pulled into that thing. And
And
yeah,
exactly, it was that. It was just the energy that was this like fusion of all these creative minds. Like we were all like all these creative people running something together, you know? And then it was the excitement energy. So it was just like attractive. It was like, oh my God, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do it tomorrow and like let's just do whatever it takes, you know, make it happen. And then it just attracted that, which was very cool. I love that. Very nice time.
yeah, it was. So obviously we did many, many shows since then and moved many stores since then. So our current store is the biggest one we had so far. So, but how did the brand Monzlapur develop since then? Obviously, it's also been 10 years. So, what did you learn as a designer throughout this journey?
Oh wow. Yes. So definitely through this journey of Monzlapur, which is also like moving to New York, it was very nicely tied with the New York experience. I feel like after a couple of years of experimenting and I understood like the core essence of what I was creating for. And so I feel like New York to me was this like city that when I finally moved here and I met like I would say like my people, my humans, all the friends or the other creatives I was meeting, it felt like a big exhale. Like now I can be like this is the space, this is the safe space where I get to be myself, you know? And like, what does that look like? So it looks like the coming together of people in space of like rendezvous and celebration. So what Monzlapur essentially became in my mind, it's like this ongoing story of like a never-ending rendezvous, you know? And this
Oh,
rendezvous is in this, it's a surreal rendezvous, the coming together of characters, friends and strangers too, because New York is that place. Like, we're talking to strangers, I'm making friends with strangers all the time, So we're all in this rendezvous, and it is an elevated setting. Everyone's dressed in elevation, which is like through the clothing. There's always music in the background, and then there's like some like quiet conversations happening here, some laughter happening here. There's like someone who gets up and dances, and makes like this like expression of emotion, and it's definitely that like safe space, of creativity and surrealism. So this is essentially like what I'm creating, this ongoing story. And like right now, I create like what I call elevated like loungewear. Like, I love making silk shirts. Flowy pieces have definitely been a big part of the brand's transition. Prints in silks and silk alternatives, but it's just that kind of um, effortless, flowy, gender fluid pieces, as well as the pieces that can complement them for the setting. Then it's like these pieces are conversational, they co-create with you. So you're wearing the piece and you're out and you're talking to somebody, and then you just end up talking to people because the piece is conversational, and it ends up being that initial stimuli, and then before you know it, you're talking to a stranger, or having like the best conversation that you never thought you would have had that night. So I put this energy into this, like this playfulness, this um into the pieces to co-create, I believe, with my clients. And that's what I'm doing right now.
that is so awesome. It was a quite transformation, your designs from the beginning, and I love how it involves with you, like how Mona herself evolved throughout this journey of her being in New York and like meeting different people. Feel like your collections evolve with you. But what about the business side of it? What do you know now that you wish you knew back then about the business side of that?
So I think like 100% something that I would like tell myself like to do, and probably new designers, is you know you like instead of creating a whole bunch of like all this different stuff, it's good to do that obviously, but also like if you find that there's something that people are loving, you know have the discipline to and the business mindset to follow that and create more of it, and create more of it in other colors, and have it be kind of like the bread and butter of the business. And then as well as you're creating a percentage of like new creative pieces, and then you're also creating pieces that become like where the money comes in for the business. So I feel like as a creative, I was just so excited to create, and so I went through like definitely a whole like 5 years where I was just like every season I was just making completely different new products, um, and yeah. So that's one of the first like discipline to create pieces that are definitely gonna bring you more money and that you see are working. What's working, make more of it. So that's the first. Let's see what else. I would say like that's another thing. Like we were trying very hard to focus on being in like having wholesale accounts, and trying to get into like larger stores and department stores, and like a lot of energy was going into that. I was like, this is what, if I do that, then I become successful. Like this is what it means, like this is what I'm chasing. And I think like in hindsight, focusing on your client, and building that and understanding your niche, and then understanding like, okay, well, where does your niche shop, and creating more outlets, and focusing honestly on online in addition to having a physical store, but like being in connection directly with the client is very important, especially in the early stages when you're trying to understand what works and what not. So that's, I think, something that I've learned. Because then the
Yeah,
other wholesale orders like that will come with time, But the key thing is to connect with your client.
I completely agree with that. I think there is something that a lot of our designers did say at the end, like something similar to what you were saying, that first you need to figure out your model in general and your client in general. Only then you might be ready for wholesale if you even decide to take that route. But at the
Yeah.
beginning, it might sound glamorous to have it, but you're just not ready, and that can taint your business rather than help it.
Yes, 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 absolutely.
Yeah. So what is next for Monzlapur?
Oh wow. Okay. So for Monzlapur right now, we our main focus, like just like I was telling you, is to really, really expand online. And now I'm at the point where I'm trying to, because we have a lot of success with our pop-ups and our in-store sales. So I want to see how I can transform that experience into an online experience as well. So I don't know exactly how I'm gonna do it, but essentially like um, focusing on online and creating some kind of like shopping channel or something where it can be playful and you can talk about the pieces and like this is how you style them, because that's also another thing. If I'm trying to like connect with the online consumer and teach them like this is the top, this is how you wear it, this is how low you can tie it, this is like how much you can cinch it in. These are conversations that I'm having in person in flying solo and in the pop-ups, but I want to translate that into the online space so that people connect with me and the product. So that's my goal, figuring out how to do that.
Well, thank you so much, Mona, for being here and sharing your incredible story of Manzlapur and how it all came
My
together with Flying
pleasure.
Solo. Yeah, so it will be our 10-year anniversary soon as Flying Solo, and it's 10-year anniversary for Manzlapur. So it's a big
100%.
milestone. Yeah, it's
Totally.
a
And
decade.
Salamina.
I know. And for Salamina too.
Okay, we need
It's
to do a collaboration. So I think, okay, me and you are gonna collaborate for the 10th year anniversary. We're gonna make a piece. It's gonna be
let's do that.
exciting.
Let's
And
do that.
exactly, we're gonna make a piece and we're gonna debut. Oh my God. Okay, so you
Yeah,
guys,
we're going to debut at New York Fashion Week, like I guess in September of 2026. You did
perfect.
collaboration already with Sylvia. You did, I think, with a few other brands, with Katie, I think you did. We need to do
Yes.
something together.
Okay, that's it. Amazing. I'm
Awesome.
excited.
Then done. Well, Mona, thank you so much for being here. I think a lot of our listeners will really benefit from your story and 10-year journey of the brand, and I hope they learn something too.
Thank you, Liz. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
Take care.